tornadoes raise her in the end. Yes, she is a loving master, but she'll ruin you faster than a friend. So you leave, but you love her, for she is a faithful mother to defend. And I will be in Saskatchewan tonight. And I will be in your loving arms tonight. Come with me to Saskatchewan tonight. Come with me to Saskatchewan tonight.
Hey Rebels, my name is Matthew Barton. Welcome to the Rebellion Brewing Podcast. Today's guest has had a profound impact on my life. I don't think I knew it at the time, but she inspired me to be a better writer, to consider the pursuit of journalism. And when I talked to some friends from high school, they all said the same thing. Cori was one of the best damn teachers they ever had. Within all of us is a multitude, and Cori Knelson isn't just an educator. She's a writer, poet, singer, songwriter, and more. It is with profound admiration I introduce you all to her today. Cori, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You have to call me Cori.
Cori.
Yeah.
Can do.
My mom calls me Corrine still, but otherwise I'm always arguing about my name, because if I introduce myself as Corrine, people will say, "Hi, Corinne," immediately. And then I'll explain that it's pronounced Corrine. And I've had arguments with people who are very certain that it should be pronounced Corinne. So now I just go by Cori.
Why would you argue with someone on how to pronounce their name?
Why would you argue with someone on how to pronounce their name?
I think they would know.
I know, and then doubly, you pronounce the K in the KN in Knelson, which is the second argument in and of itself. And people get just as certain about there should be a silent K. So it's not the ideal way to start off a conversation with someone. It's so much argument.
I mean, it's Nordic.
It's Nordic, yes.
The only person I've felt I had to correct on the pronunciation of their name was an American who had a clearly French name.
Okay.
And I've met people with that last name.
Right.
And I'm like, clearly you are of French roots, but they
Yeah.
were pronouncing it in some weird...
Like an anglicized version of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did they take to your correcting them?
They ignored me.
Okay. That's probably what I should have just done all along.
So tell me about the song you just played, Saskatchewan Tonight. Give me the what and the why of it.
Yeah. I really am so connected to the land, and I love Saskatchewan. I'm a prairie girl. I've always been very proud of Saskatchewan, and in particular in my childhood, I grew up outdoors on our land that I grew up on. I'm just going to mention as well, I just, recently in terms of reconciliation, this is a complete aside, but I was giving our statement. What's the word I'm looking for?
Land acknowledgement?
Land acknowledgement, thank you. And then I just began to wonder, actually, what about our land that my family, had, and who did it come from? And then I found out that my buddy Jeff Capo, whom I work with, his people used my land as their summer hunting ground. And so, anyway, part of this is a reconciliation conversation, and my own learning about who owned what I think of as my land before my people owned it. And just the natural beauty of Saskatchewan. When I started songwriting, I played a lot with my cousin. And we were jamming one day out at the lake, and I think we were singing Take Me Home Country Road. And my cousin said, there's no good songs about Saskatchewan. I'm sure there are great songs about Saskatchewan, but he challenged me to write something. And so I began writing down some lines, and this is what came out. So, it's not a love song the way that a lot of place name songs are, because there are a lot of things about Saskatchewan that I can't stand at all. And I really don't want to live here most of the time. But it's just part of me.
Do you think maybe we're staying here, but we want to make it a better place? Or we expect better things?
Yes.
Kind of like the way you expected
Yes.
me to be a better writer.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't easy on me as a student.
Good.
Give me a hard time.
Yeah, well, it worked. What wasn't I easy on you about?
I remember handing in papers and thinking, hey, this is not bad. And then the marks came back and they were like bruising.
What kind of mark would you consider bruising?
60s.
Really? I gave you 60s?
Oh, yeah. But I was a bad student, too. You also, one day, I helped another student with his essay. And I functionally basically rewrote the whole thing.
You've always been a great writer.
I try.
Yeah.
It's a process. I help him. I rewrite this damn essay for him. I hand it in. I handed in my own essay, right? We got the marks back.
Did I bust you?
No. Because I didn't write it for him in the sense of cheating.
Right.
He gave me his essay and I said, you need to fix this. And I couldn't let him hand it in.
I'm sorry I'm not remembering any of this.
This is one of my favorite.
Maybe I didn't know.
One of my most formative high school memories.
Okay.
I hand in these essays. We get the marks back. He got a higher mark than me. And he was barely literate. And I was very frustrated. And I went to you and I said, what is going on? How did this guy get a higher mark than me? And you looked at me and you said, you're going to university. I have higher expectations for you.
Wow.
And you like laid it out. You're like, I'm preparing you to write at a university level. I'm not giving you
I said those things.
Yeah, I'm not making it easy.
You know, this is completely challenging my entire notion of my assessment practice from my whole career. But okay, I'm glad it worked. I think I was faking you out, honestly, because, you know, I feel very certain now that I've always been consistently just grading the outcomes. And in fact, it's a large part of my professional image now. So, yeah, that's really interesting.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my memory at the time, you said there are students I have different expectations for, higher expectations for, and you said you're going to mark them harder and grind them harder because you want them. You have a greater notion of where they can go.
Well, anyone who wanted 90s, you know. Did you want 90s?
I was never getting 90s.
90s is a real stretch from 60s.
I would have been happy with 80s. Like, that's what I was used to. And then I came into your class. Boom.
You clearly weren't writing to an 80 standard.
Apparently not. It was humbling.
Did you get there? Did you get there, though?
No.
No?
But I still signed up for your class again.
I'm challenging you to a bit of a duel on this one. Like, I actually think you need, let's see the papers, because I'm going to regrade them. And I'm gonna see if I stand by my former work.
I wish I'd saved the copies.
I don't think it's true that I was so inconsistent. Do you know, a bartender in a local pub, which I really love, came to my table just a couple of months ago and said, you know, you had a profound impact on my life, and I was getting ready for this beautiful story. And then he said, you busted me for cheating. And you called my mom, and we had to come in for a meeting. Like, I have a different idea in my head of just this kind of kind, loving person that I was throughout my career. But not everyone has the same memory, I guess.
Well, to be fair, in my mind, from the perspective of sitting in a desk, you were like effortlessly cool and really gave a shit about the students in a way that some of the other teachers did.
Can we just add to my bio? Effortlessly cool. And really gives a shit.
Yeah, you should.
I'm going to get cards made.
It was great because we looked at writing, and I love that you're doing the singer-songwriter poetry thing because when you were talking to us as students, I was like, wow, she really cares, not just about the production of the thing, but the craft.
Yes.
And the notion of it is hard, and if you struggle at it, you can get better at it. And it doesn't have to stay hard.
Isn't that the most important thing? Because if you're going to learn, you have to be struggling. You can't learn without struggle. That's the definition of learning, is discomfort. Because it's hard to learn. But, I mean, life is learning. That's what you have to do. You can't stay stagnant. And if you have talent and ideas like you did and you do, you got to write them down. You got to communicate them. You're born to do that.
I have a second idea from martial arts as a student.
Yeah.
Another student story that applies to this instance of you. I was there with my sensei, and he had his sensei there, this old man in his 80s from Japan. He flies over from Japan. He's giving him a hard time the whole time. And one of the other students goes to my sensei and says, man, he's just giving me a hard time this whole class. I can't do anything right. He's just telling me how I'm doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
And the sensei goes, it's because he likes you.
Yeah.
He wants you to get better.
Well,
he's telling you you're wrong.
For real now, high expectations is something that I don't know if everyone understands how important that is. And it's about seeing another human being, no matter their age. If they're 6 years old, they're another human on this journey with you. And you got to respect them. You have to respect their journey and know that they're going to rise to expectation. But high support is also needed. But someone like you, I feel like, you came already supported in your life. Maybe you didn't need that part so much. But hopefully, you knew I cared.
It was a badge of honor that
Yeah.
somebody was like, you can do better.
Yeah.
Quit slacking.
Yeah.
So when I was listening to the song, I kind of got like the hairs on the back of my neck.
Yeah.
They stood up. And I feel like you're talking about this kind of like friction. You can't just accept the place for what it is, or accept people for necessarily, like you expect better of them.
Yeah, well, in the song, there's just all the layers of the place, the physical beauty of it, and also its ability to just destroy you at any second. There's a tornado in Keeler yesterday, which is just down the road from my summer place in Elbow. Crazy. Yeah, and I think as a province and as a culture, it's like that too. There's so much beauty in the people around us, but also there is so much abuse and difficulty and hardship in the ways that we have, and the oppression, the unconscious bias that we have against people. There's a line in the song that says, you're the long forgotten sister of the wind. And I just think of Indigenous women when I sing that line, just about how, the women who lived on the land that I grew up on. And I happened to have some friends who were adopted by a local family. So I had Indigenous best friends growing up as well, who were on my land with me and talked to me about the grandfather rocks. And I'm just so blessed and had such a great opportunity to have those voices in my life from the beginning. So, your campaign right now to end and bring awareness to violence against women is something that I feel really strongly about.
The Regina Sexual Assault Center donation piece, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's really fresh to us. For lack of a better phrase, it fills our buckets.
Yeah.
It's something we all came together as a staff and said, this is something we believe in. Mark kind of kicked off those conversations and said, what do we want to do as not just a business? It's not enough to make money.
No.
You want to make the community better. Like, what's the point of the thing? Make it better.
What's the point of a thing?
It's not just about extracting wealth.
Make it better.
For us, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
So let's back it up a sec and return to the idea of getting started with music. Because I know you've been a writer for a very long time.
Ever.
Music.
Well, music, I guess, in the sense that I've thought in song since I was born, and written songs since I was born as a child. And I grew up in the country church, in an environment where we would sing a cappella and it would just bounce off the bare walls of our church. And so I've always connected music to a deep spirituality. And I grew up, playing piano for the Royal Conservatory and in choirs my whole life. I've always had an image of, if you would have asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up when I was 9, I would have said a writer. Did you know I went to journalism school briefly?
I did not.
Yeah, I did. That still would have been my dream. Maybe it's not too late.
Why did you stop the journalism thing? Education?
Because my brother was killed in a car accident.
Oh, Jesus.
And because I was mourning, A, and then B, it's very painful to my family how the media handled that event. And so I just thought, again, what's the point of a thing if it doesn't make things better? And I quit. And I went to be a waitress. Then I finished my English degree and went into education. But yeah, this whole lark started when I challenged my school, everyone to learn something new. And I thought it would be fun if I learned how to play a song on the guitar and sing it for an assembly. And so I did that. And, it gave me a little bit of a performance bug. And I wanted to learn the guitar more. So I went to School of Rock.
You don't have stage fright?
Oh, I did. Terrible. It's really almost gone now. And I have a lot of theories about that. But I was terrified the whole time.
Coping strategy? What coping strategy do you use?
Now? Oh, diaphragm. How do you say it? I
Diaphragm?
breathe from my diaphragm.
Yeah.
It's the secret to life. Learn how to breathe and you live forever.
And that takes away the anxiety of performance?
Yeah, but a little bit of performance anxiety is good. It's adrenaline for the performance, right? Your body sends you adrenaline to do hard things. And so you need that to do hard things.
You could lift a car while you're
Matthew,
singing.
you can do hard things. That's what I always say to my kids. We can do hard things. So it's hard, but I don't know. I've always been driven to continue learning. And School of Rock, totally outside my comfort zone entirely. But again, I just had the bug. And then
I've heard of School of Rock, but
yeah.
I don't want to assume my audience knows what that is.
Yeah.
Can we unpack that for like 30 seconds?
Yeah, sure. It's a company here in the city. It's actually an American company. There's a franchise here. And, adults or kids can go there and either just take music lessons or be in a band. And so I was in an adult band and I was taking guitar lessons. And then you get a performance at a pub or something if you're an adult. And I had the time of my life. I did that for a couple of terms. And then I sought out a guitar teacher to help me and just continued learning that. Meanwhile, I had written so many lyrics my whole life. And when my life kind of started to spiral because of things happening in my personal life, I had a thought one day, which was, my life is a country song. I might as well write country lyrics. And so I began to write country lyrics and try to find people who might want to put them to music. But I became a bit frustrated that I couldn't write the music myself. So that's where the guitar thing came into. And then my buddy, Neil Child, who's an absolute king of a man. He busks all around the world in the city. And he hosts a singer-songwriter night at Bushwhackers. And so seeing the promise in me, I think, he put me on the agenda before I'd even really finished writing a song. And that was in maybe January of 2020.
So you had no music and you already knew you had to go perform.
Yes. I had 2 songs that were close-ish. And a couple of people, Michel Chamartin also being one of them, who's an experienced singer-songwriter, had been encouraging me and jamming with me. But he gave me a deadline, which is important, in terms of the rigorous part of learning as well. You got to rise to meet the sensei's expectations. And so I performed at Bushwhackers in March of 2020. My 2 songs, I was asked for an encore, and I was like, I only have 2 songs. Some guy from the audience joked, that's your whole, what's the word? Discography. You've got a 2-song discography. And that was super fun. And then pandemic and lockdown.
But you still had a chance to write.
Yeah, well, to keep myself sane, I challenged myself, as I would, to writing a song a week. And I just did that for months.
That sounds hard.
There's nothing else to do. I was growing a kitchen scrap garden, made a lot of cinnamon buns. Those first days of lockdown,
we were baking.
And drinking.
Yeah.
And Netflixing.
My friend is a PhD psychiatrist, and he said a lot of people can't afford my services. He goes, rebellion is going to be more important to the mental health of people in this province and helping them manage stress than I ever could. And I was like, what, really?
That's funny.
They need beer to just to take the edge off because people are going crazy right now. That's what he said. This was 2 years ago.
And people were probably like, hey, Ma, I got a prescription to drink beer. It's the doctor's orders. Lay off.
If he did that, he'd be pretty rocking as a...
I think so. I want to see this guy. yeah, so I just wrote stuff, and I put it up on Facebook just for my friends and family to, comment on and look at. And, when things open up again, I've had more of a chance to perform and, getting better at that, I think.
So what did the whacker say to you after your performance?
What did they say to me at Bushwhacker?
Yeah, like, did Grant say, hey, you should come back? Because I know he's a music guy.
Well, Grant, it's funny you should ask. I really wasn't at the stage where I could. But, I have gone back with Neil and the group, and we've performed a number of more times. And
I've interviewed Grant's band, Sonic Orchid, right?
Have you?
Yeah.
That's super cool. I know he's a music guy. Yeah. I'm going to learn more about Sonic Orchid. That's important. I actually just had word from Grant today. It looks like I'll be having more opportunities coming up over there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I love Bushwhackers. In university, Bushwhackers was our place for my generation, and we're still there. It's still our playlist. It's still us there. So I feel a lot of ownership and pride.
It's the reason I'm into craft beer.
Yeah.
Well, the dojo was right beside the whacker. You know where Sachin Guitars is?
Yes.
That was the old dojo. So we'd go work out.
Is this judo?
Aikido.
Aikido.
So Virgil's now on the other side.
Okay.
In, you know where Blue Court Barbershop is?
Yeah.
We're in the basement of that building. But
Wow.
we'd go to Bushwhacker after. I'd get ice packs and a pint and cheesecake. Of all things.
I just have to give a shout out to my buddy Ron Schlamp, who I think is like the original Bushwhacker fan who has spent his entire life there. He lives up north now and whatnot, but I wrote a song about it. I also have a song called Free and NOD, just celebrating everything north of Dewdney in Regina.
Right.
And Rebellion's just, but here we're okay. Here we're NOD.
On NOD?
Yeah, you're on NOD.
Yeah. People wear that as like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Like Paul, our sales guy,
Yeah.
he's like born and bred NOD, believes it, talks about it. Like it's culture and language and
It is.
that like personal myth.
I get it. I get it.
Do you identify with that even if you didn't grow up in that?
I've lived everywhere in Regina except the north. Well, I've lived in the northwest, but not the west, Yeah, so I identify as NOD, and I have worked and, led almost my entire career NOD also. So I have a strong NOD affiliation, but I have to admit I live in South Regina at the moment, which some of my friends call cake eaters. Have you heard this phrase before?
Yes, cake eaters.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
What's the origin of that, do you think?
Because they're calling them soft.
Yeah.
Paul calls me soft.
Yeah.
He called me a cake eater once.
Yeah. Is it from, I've never really understood, is it from let them eat cake? That kind of idea? Or is it just like you're soft and
effect,
you're just a
dilettante.
kind of a lecherous, belly full of cake? Lecherous is the wrong word.
I don't want to say envy. It's not spite.
No.
What is the word? Clannishness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually Regina's, because my kids, they don't actually think about the parts of Regina like that. The way that, I didn't grow up in Regina, but I think the way that my generation of people really identified. And I think that's because, sports and activities for kids don't really work that way anymore. Everyone gets to know each other. But back in the day, I think there was like a team spirit kind of idea of the part of Regina that you lived in.
I remember there was a time when I was in high school, I could tell somebody was from a different part of the city by their vernacular,
Right.
their colloquial usage, their way of
Right.
speaking. It wasn't necessarily an accent. I wouldn't call it an accent. But you could just tell they weren't one of yours.
Right. They weren't a cake eater. These stereotypes are really harmful, though. I talk to the kids about them all the time.
I mean, when I got out into the workforce, I wasn't necessarily, right after university,
Yeah.
I was going into these crappy jobs, and people would look at me and they're like, why do you talk like that?
Really?
And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, why do you use all those big words?
As a South Reginian.
As a university kid?
As a university kid.
But they felt challenged or resentful that I would use monosyllabic or
People don't like
multisyllabic words, right?
Generally, I find there is a bias against people who use a large vocabulary sometimes because they think you're pretentious, and I understand that too. I sometimes I elevate my discourse a little too high, for the setting. You just got to chill.
I'm not trying to shit on people.
No, never. It just is who you are.
I don't know. I went and I paid for those big pieces of paper. I might as well use some of the words I got.
Well, if you can define something more precisely, precise language is always a better thing.
I mean, especially when you're trying to be a poet.
Especially when you're trying to be a poet. You told me you struggled with poetry.
All the time. I think it's the hardest type of writing.
Why do you say that? I don't understand.
I can bang out thousands and thousands of words. I can put together 20 pages just like at the drop of a hat. If it's creative writing, news articles, that much faster because it's a honed skill. Poetry, it feels like you have to break all the rules.
Yes.
And there are no rules. It's
in some rebellion.
Oh, it's fucking
But hard. You have to be so precise. That's the thing about poetry. Yeah. Interesting.
I feel like I'm going to get a nosebleed when
I feel like I'm going to take this as a personal challenge to teach you to love poetry. I can't believe I didn't accomplish that as your teacher.
I appreciate it to read it.
Good.
But the act of creating it is like speaking in front of a crowd of people. And obviously when people are reading it, they're very judgmental. And I'll put it this way. It's kind of more raw, right? You can hide behind academic writing.
That's right.
You have the staid journalistic eye when you're writing that style. But when you're writing poetry, you're really bearing things out.
It's intimacy.
Your song, I said, made the hairs on my neck stand
Beautiful.
up. You can't do that with academic writing.
It's tough to make the hair on people's necks stand up with academic writing, but there's a place for all of it. It's all beautiful, but I just think, art of any kind should challenge you and should be intimate. That's the whole point, is to say the things that people are afraid to say and challenge them with hopefully some form of truth, which just is your own experience, of course.
You're trying to make people feel something when they hear your music?
I'm trying to express something when they hear the music. People seem to be feeling something because I'm having a really good response and a connection to the audience. But I think I was telling you this before. I was teaching students to believe that the writing was important and that they had a voice and, they could find an audience. And I don't know if I really believed it myself until now, that I'm trying to find an audience for my own writing and perform it and get over myself enough and believe in myself enough to get on a stage and, just say it, sing it. Right now I'm obsessed with spoken word poetry as well. And I don't know if there's any kind of scene in Regina for that, but I've written a bunch of spoken word stuff too that to me is as beautiful as the songs, if not more raw and more intimate. Dear Dolly Parton, what would you think? Would you tell me at all or just pour me a drink and say, so what's got you so blue? Does he love you right? Is he good to you? Well, I think what you tell me is true. That's why the person I want to talk to, oh, Dolly, is you.
You're at the Whacker. People are listening to your songs. You said at one point, you mentioned that they sang your song with you.
Yeah. So I'm a baby musical performer. So I'm just experiencing all of this for the first time. Like I said, I've never recorded anything. And I've just been going to these open mics and had this opportunity at Bushwhacker to sing at these singer-songwriter nights. But, a few of my songs like Saskatchewan Tonight, people are starting to know and are asking for, requesting. And then I'm having these sing-back moments where I just noticed in the last few months people singing along with me to words that I wrote and a tune that I wrote. And
What does that do?
I have to have more of that. What does that do? That makes, I don't know, my spirit rejoices. I feel heard. I feel a connection with strangers that's like nothing else I've ever experienced. I don't know. I'm not really sure what that is yet, but I'm hoping I get to experience more of it. I think it's people relating to experiences that I've had, you know, including experiences of suffering and experiences of hope and beauty and meaning, life. That's it. That's the point.
Like when you were singing the second song, I'm listening to those lyrics, and I was like, oh fuck, I've been on one end of that conversation.
Which end?
The not good end.
Like your woman was wondering what she should do?
She was kicking my ass. Yeah. You know when you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
You're learning and growing, and you're kind of dumb. I'm kind of dumb. I admit I'm dumb. And it's a part of like figuring out how to grow up and be in a relationship and not be a selfish child anymore. Like you have kids, and it just, I say there's like parenting, or a marriage is like two celestial bodies in orbit. Mm-hmm. And then a child is like the doomsday asteroid that comes and smashes into them and like knocks them apart.
I'm sorry, honey. You are the doomsday asteroid in our lives.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? Well, it's like the most important identity work that you'll ever do. I mean, parenting's messed up.
So when I heard that song, I was like, oh, fuck. I think I've literally heard those words. I felt a little guilty.
Oh, no. Well, you felt something. That's good. He did too. No, just kidding. I'm sorry, honey. Everything's good.
But I think the important part is I can hear that's where I was in the past, but not where I am now, because it's an opportunity to grow. But I like to be able to reflect that. Yeah. Reflect on that. And when I heard it coming out of you, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that's it too. I think that songwriting or any art or poetry is like it captured a moment in time. It was inspired by a moment in time in my life. And, you know, it was an opportunity to grow in that relationship. And it's also about just developing the language with each other and the script for, I don't know if you follow Brene Brown's work, but just the whole idea of unmet expectations being kind of the destruction of so many relationships, and growing it up enough and becoming self-aware enough to know your own expectations, articulate them, and give each other a chance to meet them. Or say, you know, I can't do that, and go from there. So it's a fun song. Like I think of it, even though it was a hard time in my life, as a happy moment. It also was right at the beginning of the pandemic and shut down, and a million things were happening right then. But, you know, and Dolly Parton, which I've just started really obsessing over Dolly Parton in the last few years, and I'm trying to make up for lost time of not being a Dolly Parton fan.
Saint Dolly.
Everything.
She's a big deal. She's
everything in the literacy world.
Moderna vaccine.
Yes. As a feminist, you know.
She's like a case study
Dolly.
For how to make everybody like you and make the world a better place without being a jerk about it.
Yeah, and like every form of irony, because, you know, she does what she likes and she looks how she likes. And if you listen to anything she ever said, she's the most important feminist. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just...
And
I hope someday I get to meet her.
We all thought it was that Christmas album with Kenny Rogers.
Oh, God bless Kenny Rogers. Isn't that was beautiful. Yeah. I have it on my bucket list to go to, you know, Dollywood. And I don't know. I got to get there.
I think it's easy for Dolly Parton to fly over people's heads.
Yes. Yes. But just listen. Just look at, read the lyrics.
Right.
You know. Everyone who loves music loves poetry. And, you know, she's sneaky because she looks harmless, and she looks ultra feminine, but by doing that, she got to decide everything that she wanted to do it, and just make the world a better place. Cool. And be sparkly.
You think you're walking a bit of the same path?
I hope so. It's like the total antithesis of who I thought I was, and how I tried to express, I guess, just my own personal power my whole life. Even like a feminine look, I was, a tomboy. I don't know how you remember me, but I was very, it's just when I turned 40, I'm 51 now, in case anyone's wondering. Just put it out there. I just thought, I better hurry up and like maybe do my hair or put some makeup on or something, because my time is fleeting. I just like to explore the whole gender range and like the whole dang thing. But it's a lot of fun to play dress up. And I think that's what she's been doing this whole time. You listen to her interviews. Have you heard the famous one with Barbara Walters from, I don't know, 1970 something, but she's kind of like the joke's on you guys. And it is. She wins life.
In my mind, thinking back on how it was as a student, and you were like the teacher, very Gen X vibe.
So
the sarcasm piece, you embrace that with us though. Like we would be smart asses, but it didn't knock you for a loop. You just kind of like volleyed it back to us and roasted us back. And that, I want to believe, and I don't think it's true, but you invented the sarcasm, sarcast punctuation mark because of our class. But
Was it your class?
I don't know that it's true, but I want to believe it's true.
I think that might be true. What year did you graduate?
Campbell?
Yeah.
01.
01, hey? Yeah, that'd be right around the right time. I don't know exactly what year, if you're out there and you remember.
Because we were
If anyone wants to challenge this, I'd like to know.
We were talking about the shape it should look on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
We were drawing.
It's on the whiteboard, maybe a green marker. I remember it pretty vividly too.
It's
like a lightning bolt, like a question mark, but with a lightning bolt on the top.
Yep.
Yeah, I always hoped that would take off. Maybe I'd make some money on that. Later, I did hear a CBC interview of someone else who came up with a sarcasm question, or a sarcasm punctuation mark. It was a different one, not nearly as good as ours. But it is difficult to denote sarcasm in writing. Emails are very tricky.
I used it as an editor at the student paper at the Carillon.
Did you actually?
Yeah. Because I was dealing with a bunch of university students. They're all jaded and cynical, artsy people. And I'm like scribbling in sarcast. And I had to explain to a few, but everybody
I
adopted
adore that you took that into university with you. I don't know if my punctuation mark, but someone made up all the punctuation marks at some point. They didn't come from God, like to Moses on the tablets on the mountain. Language is changing all the time. You can invent words, punctuation marks, anytime you want to. I'm not a purist.
I've given gilded hardcover copies of Strunk and White to people because I'm a word nerd.
Gilded.
Like you could get hardcover copies of E.B. Strunk and White's.
Yeah.
The art style. What is it? The style of writing, art of writing.
Yeah.
And basically, they had this collector's edition.
Right.
With the gilded pages, and my buddy's like, "I'm going to write a book," and blah blah blah. And I gave this to him, like, "This is what you need. Start
I love
here."
that.
I'm like, I'm not going to send you on a $40,000 English degree course.
No,
Just
you don't
take
need
this.
that.
And years later, he came back and he's like, "I love this book." He's like, "I've read it so many times." He's like, "I love this."
That's amazing. I love a symbolic gift. Also, that's a lot of fun. I don't think there are too many people out there just handing that out.
Strunk and White.
No.
Just word nerds.
Just word nerds.
But I mean, you also, because of your work, set me on this path to be a writer. And now I scratch that itch with the podcast. I get to write, I get to interview, and get to unpack these things. It's funny how much the brewery has brought back to me. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been on that path.
Right.
And then I walk past you, I see you sitting there in the brewery, and I'm like, holy crap.
That was crazy.
That's my favorite teacher from high school. I had to come
even tell you when former students come up and speak something into my life about the impact I had on them in any of the roles that I've had. Wow, I can't tell you how much that means. It just means the world. And then to remember the student too, who just such fond memories of those days. Yeah.
I was a bad student, but I want to believe that I was trying to be a better student.
I don't even know why you keep saying that you're a bad student. I'm going to tell you a secret. No one cares about your high school marks.
It's true.
It doesn't matter.
It's a very traumatic.
Probably want to cut this part out, but I've actually told my kids this their whole lives too, which is really weird as someone who's been, an educational person and eventually leader as well. Is like height correlates to, whatever financial success, probably, I think, more than high school marks. It's not about marks. It's about learning. And so many people miss that point, and I just feel like I'm still on that soapbox of what do you want to learn, and let's go learn it. So you learned it, you did it. You're living my dream right now.
Podcasting?
Yeah, I want to be you.
Beer.
All of it. Look how cool you are.
No one thinks I'm cool.
I beg to differ. I think you're effortlessly cool.
Thank you. You're using my words against me.
Maybe a bit of effort.
So let's circle back to music for a second. Somebody's heard your songs on this podcast. Maybe they've heard you at the Whacker. What's next? Where can people find your music? Where can they hear you play?
Well, I don't know. I guess, you'll cut this together to make it better. But I, on your advice, I started a TikTok today. I was today years old, and I want to do something from this to be my first TikTok story. I'm playing at Bushwhacker on September 14th. We don't book over the summer, but if there's an opportunity to do something sooner there, I'd love to do that. I'd love to go to the Cure open mic. I've been to the Cloud9 open mic, but that's hit and miss. I do a bit of busking. I do a lot of busking out in Elbow, Saskatchewan. Not the ideal busking environment, can be very dusty and windy. But they let me hang out on the sidewalk outside of local establishments and try to perform my songs.
I feel like there's so much more to unpack and so much more to say, but I just wanted to thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to sit and talk with me.
This was an absolute blast. So I hope maybe I'll get to come back again another time and update you on my journey. Really looking forward to drinking more Rebellion beers and keeping in touch.
When you have a couple more new songs?
Yeah.
Deadly.
Okay. I'm in.
100%.
I'm in. Well, I have so many. I don't know, 30? I have multiple albums worth of songs just sitting there,
Okay.
Someone needs songs. Let me know.
You polish them up, we'll cut a few gems.
Okay. Can't wait.
Rebels, thanks for listening today. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, be sure to join us on our brand new Facebook group page, The Rebellion Brewing Podcast. I'm going to include links in the show notes so you can find more about Cori Knelson online. I'm also proud to let you know that we're members of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. It's a one-stop shop for tons of locally produced shows from across our province. You can find them at saskpodcastnetwork.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Untapped so you don't miss out on the latest in Sask craft beer news. Thank you for joining the Rebellion.